Our story begins thousands of years ago, on the vast, shimmering expanse of the Pacific Ocean. Brave seafarers known as Austronesians set out from Southeast Asia in magnificent outrigger canoes. They were masters of navigation, reading the stars, the currents, and the flight of birds to guide them. Their journey was not one of conquest, but of discovery, a search for new homes among the scattered jewels of the sea. They traveled for countless miles, carrying with them their families, their culture, and the seeds of a new life. These were the very first pioneers to glimpse the emerald green islands that would one day be called Palau. Imagine the moment they first saw land. After weeks at sea, with nothing but the endless blue around them, the sight of these volcanic islands, draped in lush rainforest and fringed with brilliant white sand, must have felt like a miracle. They had found their paradise. These early settlers, arriving perhaps as far back as 3,000 years ago, brought with them the skills needed to thrive. They knew how to cultivate taro and breadfruit, how to fish the rich coral reefs, and how to build sturdy homes from the materials the forest provided. It was here, in this remote archipelago, that the foundations of Palauan society were carefully laid. Life on these islands was a delicate dance with nature. The early Palauans learned to live in harmony with their surroundings, understanding the rhythms of the tides and the seasons. The ocean was their larder, providing an abundance of fish, clams, and other marine life. The fertile volcanic soil yielded crops that sustained their growing villages. They developed a deep and profound respect for the natural world, seeing it not as something to be conquered, but as a provider that deserved care and gratitude. This intimate connection to the land and sea became a cornerstone of Palau's identity, a legacy that endures to this very day. From these humble beginnings, a complex and vibrant culture began to flourish. The population grew, and villages spread across the main islands of Babeldaob, Koror, Peleliu, and Angaur. They were not just surviving. They were building a society with intricate social structures, unique traditions, and a rich oral history. Each island, each village, and each clan contributed to a growing tapestry of human experience. This was the dawn of Palau, a nation born from the courage of ancient mariners and nurtured by the incredible bounty of a pristine tropical paradise, a testament to human resilience and adaptation. Palauan society was not built around kings or emperors but around something far more intimate, the family or clan. Everything revolved around the concept of kinship. A person's identity was deeply connected to their mother's lineage, a system we call matrilineal. This meant that land, titles, and wealth were passed down through the female line. The women were the anchors of society, the keepers of the clan's heritage and resources. This gave them immense influence and respect within the community. The strength of Palau was not found in a single ruler but in the combined strength of its many interwoven clans. At the head of these clans were the chiefs and their female counterparts, known as the Council of Elders. These were not rulers in the traditional sense, they were custodians of tradition and wisdom. The elders were chosen for their experience, their knowledge of customs, and their ability to guide their people with fairness. They would gather in traditional meeting houses called WWII to discuss important matters affecting the village. Here they would make decisions about everything from farming and fishing rights to resolving disputes between families. Their leadership was based on consensus and a deep understanding of their community's needs. Life was also guided by a rich tapestry of myths and legends, passed down from one generation to the next through storytelling, chants, and dance. These stories were not mere entertainment, they were the history books and the moral compass of the people. They explained the creation of the islands, the origins of the clans, and the proper way to live. One of the most important legends tells of a giant child named Uab, whose immense hunger taught the people the importance of cooperation and the dangers of greed. These tales reinforced the core values of Palauan culture: respect, responsibility, and community. This intricate social structure created a stable and resilient society. Every individual had a place and a purpose. The matrilineal system ensured that resources were managed carefully for future generations. The Council of Elders provided wise and steady leadership, preventing conflicts from escalating, and the shared stories and legends bound everyone together with a common identity and a shared understanding of their world. It was this powerful combination of family, leadership, and tradition that allowed Palau to thrive in isolation for centuries, creating a unique and enduring cultural heritage. Scattered across the northern tip of Palau's largest island, Babeldaob, lies some of the archipelago's most profound mysteries. Here, in a grassy clearing overlooking the sea, stand the ancient stone monoliths of WWII. Dozens of massive basalt columns, some weighing up to 5 tons, are arranged in 2 long rows. Many are topped with carved faces, their features weathered by centuries of sun and rain, their expressions seeming to hold ancient secrets. They stand like silent sentinels, a testament to the remarkable engineering skills and artistic vision of the people who placed them here so long ago, perhaps as far back as the year 161 AD. The true purpose of these stones remains a subject of fascination and debate. What were they for? Archaeologists believe they may have been the foundation pillars for an enormous bai or ceremonial meeting house, far larger than any known today. Such a structure would have been the center of a powerful and important chiefdom. It would have required the coordinated effort of hundreds of people to quarry the heavy stones, transport them to the site, and hoist them into place. The sheer scale of the project suggests a highly organized and prosperous society, one capable of undertaking monumental works for the glory of its community. Local legends, however, offer a different, more magical explanation. One story tells that the stones were put in place by the gods themselves, who worked only at night. Another speaks of the stones being carried to the site through powerful magic. These tales connect the monoliths to the spiritual world, imbuing them with a sacred power that is still felt by Palauans today. For them, WWII is not just an archaeological site, it is a direct link to their ancestors and their mythological origins. It is a place of deep cultural and spiritual significance, a physical reminder of the island's ancient past. Whether built by human hands or divine spirits, the stones of WWII whisper a story of ambition, community, and reverence. They challenge us to imagine the world of the ancient Palauans, their social structures, their beliefs, and their incredible capabilities. These mysterious monoliths are more than just rocks. They are the petrified history of a people, standing in silent testimony to a time when Palau was a hub of great power and cultural achievement in the vast Pacific. They remind us that even without written records, a culture can leave behind an enduring and powerful legacy. For thousands of years, the people of Palau lived in relative isolation, their world defined by the surrounding ocean. But in the 16th century, and more significantly in the 18th century, strange new sails appeared on the horizon. These were the ships of European explorers. The first documented contact came in 1783, when the English vessel Antelope, captained by Henry Wilson, was shipwrecked on a reef off the island of Oolong. The encounter that followed was, remarkably, one of mutual respect and cooperation. The Palauans, led by Chief Ibadul of Koror, helped the English crew rebuild their ship, and in return, the English shared their tools and technology. This initial period of friendly exchange, however, was a prelude to a more challenging era. As more European powers vied for influence and resources in the Pacific, Palau found itself caught in the currents of global politics. In the late 19th century, Spain formally claimed the islands as part of its vast colonial empire, the Spanish East Indies. Spanish rule was relatively light, with their presence mostly limited to a small administrative center and the introduction of Catholicism by Capuchin missionaries. While some Palauans converted, most held fast to their traditional beliefs, and the core of Palauan society remained largely intact during this period. The turn of the 20th century brought another change of flags. After its defeat in the Spanish-American War, Spain sold Palau to Germany in 1899. The Germans had a different vision for the islands. They were primarily interested in economic exploitation. They established large-scale coconut plantations to produce copra, a valuable export, and began mining for phosphate on the island of Angaur. This new economic focus brought significant changes to Palauan society. Men were often required to work on the plantations and in the mines, disrupting traditional village life and patterns of labor. Despite these pressures, the Palauan people proved to be remarkably resilient. They adapted to the new economic realities while fiercely protecting their cultural identity. The councils of chiefs continued to hold significant authority at the local level, often mediating between their people and the colonial administrators. They navigated the complex demands of the foreign powers, finding ways to preserve their land, their traditions, and their social structures. This period of Spanish and German rule was Palau's first sustained encounter with the outside world, a challenging chapter that tested its strength and set the stage for even more profound changes to come. In 1914, with the outbreak of World War I, the era of German control came to an abrupt end. Japan, siding with the Allied powers, seized Germany's colonial possessions in the Pacific, including Palau. After the war, the League of Nations officially granted Japan a mandate to govern the islands. This marked the beginning of the most transformative period in Palau's colonial history. Unlike the Spanish or Germans, the Japanese saw Palau not just as an economic outpost, but as an integral part of their expanding empire. They moved the administrative capital for their Pacific territories to Koror, turning the once quiet village into a bustling modern town. The Japanese administration brought sweeping changes to every aspect of Palauan life. They built roads, hospitals, and public utilities. They introduced a formal education system where Palauan children were taught the Japanese language and customs. The economy was completely reshaped. Japanese businesses took over the phosphate mines and expanded agriculture, but they also introduced commercial fishing and pineapple canning industries. This period saw a massive influx of Japanese, Okinawan, and Korean immigrants, who soon outnumbered the native Palauan population. Koror became a vibrant, multicultural hub, often called the Little Tokyo of the Pacific. For the Palauan people, this was a time of complex and often conflicting experiences. On one hand, they had access to modern amenities and economic opportunities that had not existed before. Some Palauans embraced the new system, learning Japanese and working in the colonial administration or new industries. On the other hand, traditional authority was significantly eroded. The power of the chiefs was diminished as the Japanese administration took over governance. Palauans were often treated as second-class citizens in their own land, and the pressure to assimilate into Japanese culture was immense, threatening their own unique identity. As the 1930s progressed, the atmosphere in Palau shifted once more. Japan's militaristic ambitions grew, and the island's strategic location became paramount. The Japanese military began to secretly fortify Palau, building naval bases, airfields, and coastal defenses in violation of their League of Nations mandate. The once peaceful islands were being transformed into a formidable military bastion. For the people of Palau, the modern town of Koror and the bustling economy now existed in the shadow of a growing war machine. Their home was being prepared for a conflict not of their making, a devastating storm that was about to break across the Pacific. The storm of World War II finally crashed upon Palau's shores in 1944. As Allied forces pushed across the Pacific, driving back the Japanese Empire, Palau became a key strategic target. The Japanese had turned the islands into a fortress, and the Americans believed that capturing them was essential to protect the flank of their planned invasion of the Philippines. The main focus of the American assault was the small southern island of Palau, where the Japanese had constructed a major airfield and honeycombed the island's limestone ridges with an elaborate network of caves, tunnels, and fortified positions. On September 15, 1944, the United States 1st Marine Division landed on the beaches of Palau. The American commanders expected a swift victory, predicting the island would be secured in just a few days. They were tragically mistaken. The Japanese defenders, under the command of Colonel Kunio Nakagawa, had abandoned the traditional strategy of defending the beaches. Instead, they waited for the Marines to move inland, and then unleashed a ferocious barrage of fire from their hidden fortifications. The battle descended into a brutal, grinding war of attrition fought in scorching heat and unforgiving terrain. For over 2 months, American Marines and soldiers fought yard by bloody yard to clear the Japanese from their caves and pillboxes. The fighting on Palau was some of the most savage and costly of the entire Pacific War. The island's ridges, given names like Bloody Nose Ridge, became scenes of unimaginable horror. The battle that was supposed to last 4 days stretched into 73 days of relentless combat. By the time the island was finally declared secure in late November, the cost was staggering. Over 10,000 Japanese defenders and nearly 2,000 American servicemen had lost their lives, with thousands more wounded. For the Palauan people, the war was a catastrophe. Before the invasion, most civilians had been forcibly evacuated from Palau and other combat zones to the island of Babel Daub, where they faced starvation and disease. The fighting utterly devastated the islands. The once bustling town of Koror was flattened by bombing, and the landscape of Palau was scarred beyond recognition. The war left deep and lasting wounds on the land and its people. The rusted remnants of tanks, planes, and artillery pieces that still litter the jungles of Palau today serve as silent, haunting memorials to the terrible price paid for Palau's liberation. With the end of World War II, the Japanese Empire was dismantled, and Palau entered a new chapter under the stewardship of the United States. In 1947, the United Nations established the Trust Territory of the Pacific Islands, a vast area of Micronesia that included Palau. The United States was assigned as the administering authority, with a mandate to promote the political, economic, social, and educational advancement of the inhabitants and their progressive development towards self-government or independence. For the next several decades, the American flag flew over Palau, bringing with it a profound and lasting influence. The early years of the Trust Territory were a period of slow recovery. The United States Navy initially governed the islands, focusing on rebuilding basic infrastructure destroyed during the war and providing essential services like healthcare. However, compared to the intense development of the Japanese era, progress was often slow. Palau, once a bustling administrative center, became a quiet backwater in a sprawling American territory. The economy became heavily dependent on United States financial aid, creating a system often referred to as a welfare state, where government jobs funded by Washington became the primary source of employment for many Palauans. One of the most significant impacts of the American period was the introduction of a democratic system of government. The United States established a Palauan legislature, the Olbil-era Kalulau, and introduced the concepts of elections, political parties, and a formal constitution. This was a dramatic shift from the traditional system of governance by chiefs and the authoritarian rule of the Japanese. Palauans gradually adapted to these new political structures, learning to navigate the world of modern democracy while still holding deep respect for their traditional leaders, who continued to play an important advisory role. Education was another key area of American influence. A public school system modeled on the American system was established, and English became the official language of instruction. This opened up new opportunities for young Palauans, with many traveling to the United States for higher education. This exposure to American culture and ideals had a powerful effect, shaping the aspirations of a new generation. While this period brought Palau closer to the modern world, it also presented a challenge: how to embrace new ideas and a new form of government without losing the ancient cultural identity that had defined the islands for millennia. By the late 1970s, the people of Palau were ready to chart their own course. As other districts of the Trust Territory moved towards their own political futures, Palau began the long and difficult journey toward sovereignty. A constitutional convention was held in 1979, and the Palauan people drafted a remarkable document. It was a constitution that not only established a democratic republic, but also included a bold and unprecedented provision. It declared Palau a nuclear-free nation, banning the use, storage, or transit of any nuclear, chemical, or biological weapons within its territory. This was a powerful statement from a people who had witnessed the devastation of modern warfare firsthand. This nuclear-free clause, however, placed Palau in direct conflict with the United States. The United States military wanted the option to operate its nuclear-powered ships and aircraft in Palauan territory as part of its Cold War strategy. The proposed treaty that would define Palau's future relationship with the United States, known as the Compact of Free Association, required giving the United States these military rights. The Palauan Constitution, however, required a 75% majority vote to override the nuclear-free provision. This set the stage for a prolonged political struggle that would last for over a decade. The people of Palau were faced with a difficult choice. Approving the compact would bring vital economic aid and secure their political independence, but it would mean compromising on their anti-nuclear principles. Rejecting it meant preserving their constitution but facing an uncertain economic future. Between 1983 and 1990, the Palauan people voted on the compact multiple times. Each time a majority voted in favor, but never enough to reach the 75% threshold needed to set aside the nuclear-free clause. The political stalemate led to internal tensions and even violence, a period known as the Troubles. Finally, a path forward was found. After a legal challenge, the Supreme Court of Palau ruled that only a simple majority was needed to amend the constitutional provision. In 1993, the Palauan people voted once more, this time approving the Compact of Free Association with the required majority. On October 1, 1994, Palau finally became an independent nation, the last part of the Trust territory to do so. It entered into a unique relationship with the United States, which provides financial assistance and defense guarantees, while Palau stands as a sovereign republic, a small island nation that stood firm for its principles on the world stage. Today, the Republic of Palau stands as a beacon of hope and a global leader in environmental conservation. Having achieved its political independence, the nation has turned its focus to protecting the natural resource that is its greatest treasure, its pristine marine environment. In 2009, Palau created the world's first nationwide shark sanctuary, recognizing that these magnificent predators are worth more alive in the ocean than they are in a fishing net. This was a bold first step on a much larger journey of conservation, one that would capture the world's attention and inspire other nations to follow. Building on this success, Palau took an even more ambitious step in 2015. It established the Palau National Marine Sanctuary, designating 80% of its national waters, an area larger than the state of California, as a fully protected no-take zone. This sanctuary is one of the largest of its kind on Earth, a vast refuge where marine life can thrive without the pressures of commercial fishing. The remaining 20% is reserved for local fishermen, ensuring food security for the Palawan people. This visionary policy is rooted in the ancient Palawan tradition of bull, a conservation practice where chiefs would place a moratorium on fishing in certain areas to allow stocks to recover. This commitment to environmental stewardship is now the cornerstone of Palau's identity and its economy. Tourism, specifically ecotourism, is the nation's primary industry. Visitors from around the world are drawn to Palau's pristine paradise to dive in its crystal-clear waters, explore its famous jellyfish lake, and witness its incredible biodiversity. To protect this precious resource, Palau has implemented the Palau Pledge, a unique initiative where all visitors must sign a promise, stamped into their passports, to act in an ecologically and culturally responsible way during their stay. It is a powerful reminder that visitors are guests in this fragile home. As Palau navigates the challenges of the 21st century, from climate change and sea level rise to balancing development with tradition, it does so with a profound sense of purpose. It is a nation that has successfully blended its ancient past with a modern future. The Council of Chiefs continues to advise the elected government, ensuring that traditional wisdom guides contemporary policy. The spirit of the first Austronesian navigators, the resilience of those who endured colonialism and war, and the wisdom of the elders who declared their home a nuclear-free sanctuary, all live on. Palau remains a small island with a giant voice, a living testament to the power of culture, conservation, and courage.